Hey guys, before we get started on today's episode, if you wouldn't mind supporting the channel just by liking and subscribing, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just leave a review for us. And even if you're on YouTube, just comment down below what you want us to hear about or what you want us to talk about. It really helps us get even bigger guests and helps us grow even more. If you want to support us on a further level and you live in the Greater Toronto Hamilton area and you want to work with us or just see if we're a good fit, click the first link down below in the description. You'll book a call from the comfort of your own home, get to know us a little bit better, our style, how we plan to sell or help you buy your first home or maybe second home, whatever it might be. We just go over your situation. It's completely free. All right, without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, guys, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Homefront podcast. So much happened as usual, especially as we kind of gear up for an election here. But we'll get into a few more things later. Brooke, how are we?
I'm well. Interest rates came down, so happy about that. As expected, though. I mean, it wasn't a surprise, but that gets people talking. I feel like it brightens the light at the end of the tunnel just a little bit,
Just a,
becoming a little bit brighter.
just so yeah, everyone knows, not everyone knows, but like what does it mean? Like it drops the variable rate 25%. We'll get into a bit more, but it only is on every 100,000 you borrow, a 25 basis point drop in the variable rate saves you 15 bucks.
To
So it's not
interrupt
too
you,
much. Yeah.
I saw a post that said, to all variable rate holders, you can now afford your Disney Plus membership again. Basically saying it doesn't do much, which,
Yeah, you're 15 bucks.
yeah. But I mean, we're headed in the right direction. I think there's more rate cuts to come. And if I'm being honest, I do feel a little uptick in activity just even right before now that we're headed into September, kids are back at school. I notice my phone being busier like that for a while there in August. I'm like, wow, my phone is quite um silent. Like it was actually, I don't want to say nice because I do love helping clients, but it was crazy. But now it's busier again, and I don't know if there's a direct correlation because it's also the fall market, but I think it does have a little bit to do with it, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm gonna read this first headline here. So this has kind of obviously been the big breaking news of what's going on. So Jagmeet Singh says NDP has ripped up supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals. So since March of 2022, the NDP has been propping up the Liberals in a supply and confidence agreement that saw both parties support each other and strike deals to pass legislation. That agreement was originally meant to hold up until June 2025 before the party breaks for a scheduled election that fall. But that relationship is now over. On Wednesday, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh released a video saying that he's ripping up that agreement early. The
It's very
announcement does,
dramatic.
yeah, it's very dramatic. The announcement does not mean a federal election is imminent, but it does raise questions as whether Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government can survive until the next scheduled election in the fall of 2025. The government could fall at any time in the event that it loses a vote on a confidence matter, such as a budget or an opposition motion, specifically expressing that the House of Commons has lost confidence in the government. So Jagmeet Singh just said to his older brother, basically said,
Yeah.
I'm going to run the company now. I'm going to win the election. So that's kind of where he's at. So a lot of people are like, okay, so this means an election's coming because they're excited that we might get some change and that Pierre Poilievre's going to win based on the polls. But a big underlying factor that I'm actually really impressed with Canadian media because they're usually very like left leaning. I hate
Yeah.
left and right, but they usually are. They were grilling Jagmeet Singh, saying, "Why aren't you calling an election? If you're ripping up this agreement and you're saying, you've lost confidence in liberals, why are you ripping it up?" And then they're asking, "Well, is it because if you go until February, he has over a $2 million pension that he's going to qualify for, but if he calls an election now, he potentially can't get that pension." So that's what a lot of people are saying. So the election's supposed to be in November next year. I think Jagmeet is going to really push for like gaining more seats for the NDP in the upcoming election. He's never going to win. I'll make that clear in my opinion. He's never
NDP
going
is,
to win.
is never going to win. I will stand by that. Never.
Yeah, but I think what he's doing is almost a little bit smart because the people who vote liberal who say I can't do Justin Trudeau anymore, but I can't
Yeah.
do Pierre Poilievre, I'm just not conservative. Now Jagmeet being taken away from the liberals because he doesn't have this coalition anymore or this kind of
Right.
liberal thing hanging over his head might gain some voters that way. But I truly do believe that we will have an election sooner than November. And another, someone was saying on Twitter that they think, because Trudeau can call an election, so they think Trudeau, out of spite, might call an election early because Trudeau knows he's going to lose, but then Jagmeet would potentially lose his pension.
Ah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to
No, so if
happen,
an
but
election happens prior to that date in February and Jagmeet loses, he loses his pension.
he could potentially lose his pension. Yeah. I don't
And
really know
what are
the
the
logistics.
stipulations on that? Because if
I
you've
don't know a lot
served,
of it, to be
because there
honest.
still has to be a pension, maybe just not as much, because
Yeah.
it's not like, hey, you make it to this date and you get it, but
I think
there's
you
just
have
a
to
lot
be in
going on.
politics for a certain amount of time. Like I know Pierre Poilievre already has his, but his whole career has been in politics.
Right.
So yeah, yeah. Like I mean, selfishly, if I'm Jagmeet Singh too, I'm thinking about that pension as well. Like that's a big pension. That's like a lot of, money that you're going to be sitting on for your later years in life when you become irrelevant in politics as, eventually
Yeah.
you retire or you do other things. But yeah, I'm
That
not
was,
too versed on pensions because you and I obviously don't have one, but I do
yeah.
obviously have to invest my own money myself for my future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people just say, even Warren Buffett says it, just buy the S&P 500 and bet on America. So that's what he's like, just dollar cost average into the S&P with at a low
Yeah.
fee into an
Yeah.
ETF, and that'll
Yeah.
that'll yield you something pretty good in the long run if you aren't like
Right.
wanting to be in tune with stocks and everything
Right.
like that. Some people beat the S&P 500, but I actually find it's very
Yeah.
rare that it ever
No,
happens.
it's
But
that one is just steady. I
Mhm.
actually followed your lead. So Cortez does a lot of private mortgages. So he was smart just for savvy investors. So when he closed on his condo, you put a mortgage on it, even though you didn't necessarily need a mortgage on it,
Mhm.
because the mortgage, you paying the mortgage, you could using that cash you could have bought the condo with, you put it over here and you make a way better return on the money than what you pay in a mortgage by doing your privates.
Yeah, just the
Um,
spread. I just took the
yeah.
spread. So, and a lot of people do it where they basically, what they do is they get a HELOC on their home or something along those lines, and then they lend it out in private markets. And you got to be careful though. Like I'm not gonna lie, like it's not like an easy thing to do. The deals you
No,
have to find
people
are like people have gotten burned, right? Like people,
have gotten
unfortunately,
screwed and have
yeah,
had to sell. I actually, someone on my team has done that. So it is a smart idea. So hey, let's say you have a ton of equity in your home. You don't want to refinance because you're in a good interest rate. Slapping on a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on a variable rate. Let's say you pull out 300 grand on a line of credit, so you only pay the interest on how much you use at 6%, but then you lend that out at 11%. So now you're making 11% minus 6%, right?
yeah, yeah.
It
Like
makes
I
sense to
usually
pull money,
get
but you gotta be safe.
Yeah, I usually get about anywhere from 12 to 14%. But
Yeah.
like what we're looking at is the appraisal on the home and the loan to value as well. So like you're usually in second position a lot of the time, but like I'm lending on a few deals in Muskoka and Gravenhurst. They're kind of building more density up there. So like more
Yeah.
people can have the opportunity to come in. And there was a project and I lent on it, but like six of them were already sold. And what they're waiting for is to get the money for the closing on them. Like they've already pre-sold them, and then what they're doing is they're trying to speed up the process a bit. So like that's why we're lending on it, and then we have to
Got
look at,
it.
okay, how much does the builder have in terms of money? Like how
Right.
what's the loan to value on the thing? So there's a little bit of work that goes into it, but there
And
was a
in second
scandal. Sorry, go
position,
ahead. Yeah.
if you're in a second position, which most, because we're not going to be the first mortgage holders realistically. Like we're not private lenders. Most people go with A lenders or B lenders and then a private lender, and then we're just kind of to be second place mortgage lenders. Let's say the market crashed like it did. If you were in second position and you lent 100K and the bank lent 800K, meaning the total debt is 900K, but the house only sold for 800K, you lose your money in second position.
Yeah, you're pretty
Position
much
gets
yeah,
Yeah, first position gets
shit out of
paper.
luck. Yeah.
Yeah. You really have to make sure that the loan to value, like there's room there for error and there's room for decrease, that you're not. And I work with these guys out in BC, and they do a lot of mortgages. Actually, you know them too. We look at the deals that they're funding, and some of the times I'm like, I wouldn't fund that, because if it came down to it where they had to force a sale, their loan is going to be higher than what the sale price is, and that leaves them, who are in second position, SOL.
100%. So
That
Yeah,
was off topic, but it's
it was off
interesting
topic.
stuff.
No, no, yeah, it's
And
interesting.
that's like just another little branch of real estate that, if somebody has like not a crazy ton of money but wants to grow it, like just feel free to message us about it because there are ways to grow your money. I always say having money in a savings account, you're losing money due to
Yeah,
inflation. So it's just a way to grow your money, especially if your goal is to buy a house in 5 years, etc. But we have experience in that too with people that maybe don't have enough for down payment, but do want to make a return on, little lump sums of money. We can help point you in the right direction.
for sure. You want to read the next one there?
Yes. Okay. Bank of Canada cuts interest rate a quarter point to 4.25%. I want to asterisk that doesn't mean that's the variable rate. So the Bank of Canada rate is now 4.25%. Everyone thinks that that's the rate now.
Yeah.
Well, that's the overnight rate. The banks that now offer the mortgages add a premium to that, so we're still around 6%. They usually add about 1.5 to 2% on top of that. But again, we're headed in the right direction. So we're not going to see the variable rate at 4.25%. If the variable rate was around this, that would mean the overnight rate was kind of like in the threes. Anyways, the central bank reduced its policy rate by 25 basis points to 4.25. The last time it cut 3 consecutive times, barring the pandemic, was during the first quarter of 2009 during the global financial crisis. So we're taking out the pandemic.
Yeah.
So the last time other than the pandemic. If inflation continues to ease broadly in line with our July forecast, it is reasonable to expect further cuts in our policy rate, said Tiff Macklem. I want to watch his talk. He's very smart. I like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like him. During prepared remarks in Ottawa, we will continue to assess the opposing forces on inflation and take our monetary policy decisions one at a time. As inflation gets closer to target, we want to see economic growth pick up to absorb the slack in the economy so inflation returns sustainably to the 2% target. Macklem said. Economists are predicting the Bank of Canada will continue cutting its interest rate for the remainder of the year and into 2025, with the rate falling, drum roll please, between 2.25 and 3.25% by the end of next year. And that would put the variable rate below 5%, which then things become, that's going to boost the economy for sure. But
Yeah.
as he's saying, he's trying to do it very slow where it's not going to be a big boom in inflation and growth where, he'll have to increase. Because normally with increases and decreases, like if we look at the span of 20 years, right, they have what, six announcements per year? Am I right about that? They have more?
I think a bit more, yeah, but like yeah, I think it's around eight
Okay,
announcements.
so
I don't know
what
how many
usually
off the top of my head,
happens?
to be honest, but
So if we look at like the average, if they have 8 announcements on the interest rate, they very much follow inflation throughout the year, increase, decrease accordingly to try to keep inflation in check. What is the norm? Because we did 3 decreases in a row, we did a ton of increases in a row. So it seems like we're trying to go like really hard one way. Is it kind of balanced for the most part in other years where,
yeah,
the
usually
economy,
when inflation's healthy at that 2% target, you don't even hear about these press conferences because they don't
you
really
don't even hear
matter.
about that.
Yeah, that it
Nobody,
doesn't matter.
I
Yeah.
never heard. So back to 2017, I kind of started right after that little lull in 2017. I never heard about the Bank of Canada announcement. Like that wasn't even a, a, a thing that people talked about, right?
Well,
Because we
people
didn't
didn't even
follow it
talk
so
about
closely.
inflation much
No,
because it was under
no.
control, right? But the opposite has
But now
happened.
everybody knows it. Everyone
I
knows what a
know.
basis point means. No
I
one knew
know.
what
No
the
one knew what a
basis
basis point
point
was before
meant
that.
before. Yeah.
But it's interesting because he in the press conference, I watched a little bit of it, but I think that because this is more of a housing show, but it is an economy show. But he said that he sees the opportunity for downside in the rental market due to immigration numbers continuously looking in the future like they're going to fall. And we'll get
Yeah.
more into that down below. I have another headline I want to read later on, but he also sees a potential, like not all the housing bulls out there, but he said there's a potential that we could see an increase in house prices because affordability is coming down in terms of your monthly payments and stuff like that. So interest rates on the fixed and the variable products are heading south. So he could potentially see an increase in prices. I'm still of the belief that I think we are going to trade sideways for the next little bit. That's been my thesis for a while, and so far I've been right. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think with the decrease in population, um, the rental market will. I think it's already seeing a decline. Like the numbers will continue to show that. rental
And
prices
even
are going to come down.
activity. I have three of my units out of one, two, three, four, five up for lease. And I used to be able to rent them in like a day. Like if
Mm.
my unit came up November 1st, which two of them are, um, I'd put it up like November 1st and no issues. I'd have a tenant. Now I'm like, hey, it's September 1st. Somebody moves out November 1st, like put it up just because
Yeah.
the activity is has slowed down. And it's interesting because usually when the market slows down in terms of buying, like selling and purchasing, the rental market goes up. So it's interesting to see like the activity as a blanket has been slow, like renting, selling, buying, right? So it's like people are just simply staying put, and you wonder like all these new people, like where are people going? And people are just staying put, and that includes the rental market, which is interesting because it's usually like this.
Yeah, yeah, and again, when you control the demand side of the equation, you actually get results that you're looking for.
you
So
love
like,
you love saying that. That's
oh, I just
Cortez's
yeah,
word.
it's like what I've been spewing, and it's just funny because like you get called all these names online, but then you start to see the results of like, oh, it had nothing to do with what their race was. It had everything to do with basic economics of if you have too many people coming in to a system that's not ready for it, then when the demand side gets hit so much, prices just go up. That's every person who studied
We learned that in grade
economics
4.
101. Like
Supply and demand.
just needed a refresher to JT and who's ever in
I
charge of
know.
of
No.
immigration. But yeah, and they were warned about this, and now they're taking action. And I only think they're taking action because of Canadians standing up and saying, "This is the issue. This is what we're seeing." And your
Mhm.
polling numbers are just horrible, and they're going to get worse now that his best friend there, Jagmeet Singh, left him. So I don't know what's gonna happen. Like the drama is still like I feel like
Can they
we're in a TV show.
I know. Can they call elections like they can in Canada in the States?
I actually don't know the answer to that question.
Because I've
I'm not
never
sure.
seen that in the
Neither have I.
States.
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
don't
we
know.
could fact check that. But they can call they Justin called an election, was that 2 years ago now?
Because he had a minority, so he wanted a majority.
A
Because
majority, right.
when you have a majority, you can get policy
Didn't
through
he not get
quicker.
it?
He didn't, but
Yeah.
what he did was he said, "Hey, Jagmeet, if you team up with me, then
Then we
we
have
together can put policies
majority.
through together." But then Jagmeet got sick of him not listening to like some of his
Right.
policies and stuff like that. And I think Jagmeet sees this as an opportunity to really get some seats for the NDP.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Interesting. I think Pierre and the Conservatives kind of have a slam dunk here. Every
I
time I
think they have
log
a
on,
slam. I think they have a slam
slam
dunk
dunk.
on a majority. I think that's like
Wait.
what's really going to
Oh yeah.
happen. So yeah. Anyways, all right. Next topic here. Canada's unemployment rate hit 7-year high in August. So just more bad news for the economy, but this means that more rate cuts are probably ahead. So Canada's unemployment rate ticked higher again in August as labor markets continue to cool. Statistics Canada said Friday that the unemployment rate rose to 6.6% amid a gain of 22,000 net jobs. The increase reflected gains in part-time work, but decline in full-time work. So it's very important to understand that the part-time work is going up, but the full-time work is what most people want and need to survive has declined. So the national unemployment rate now stands at its highest point since May 2017, according to StatsCan. And again, this is outside the pandemic years. StatsCan noted that students in particular face a difficult summer job market. The unemployment rate among students returning to school in the fall was 16.7%, the highest level since 2012, excluding the pandemic. A big driver of this, a lot of people say, is the number of people that Canada is bringing into the country, the low skill work that's coming in. Again, when you're coming out of high school, you have low skill, like right, you don't even have your high school diploma yet, so you don't have a lot of skills. So you work in grocery stores and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong. I worked all these different low skill jobs, and it builds character. It's good for you, but with the
I worked in about
unemployment
30 restaurants.
yeah. the the unemployment
30.
rate is so high among youth. Like it's even I think it's higher in Ontario. It's about 14.5% unemployment in youth in Canada, which is
You know what's
which is
crazy?
staggering.
A lot of grocery store, like you think about unionized jobs, okay, and people usually say, okay, I make more money if I join this union. However, unions can lay people off way easier than if you were to just work for a private company. Um, so I find that there's a lot of people that I talk to are laid off. So that doesn't mean they're necessarily fired or don't have a job. Like technically they don't have a job as they're laid off, but they're going to return to it as, the economy grows and those trades are in need again.
Mm.
But there was I don't even know if there's ever been a time where I knew so many people that were in these unionized jobs that are literally laid off, and that's it. And they're part of these unions. So for the longest time, unions, you make more money, right? So let's say an electrician as an example. If you're part of a union, you're going to make way more money per hour, and you're paid hourly. So even if you stretch out the job or whatever happen, you usually get paid more. But you have these, I don't want to say more risk because unions are usually pretty good. But if you just work for a private company, you're going to get paid less, but being laid off isn't as on the horizon, I guess. I know an electrician and he's like, I choose to be paid less because I don't want to be part of a union because I know so many electricians that just rely on the work that, they get, and
Mm.
they're laid off. So he continues to work ununionized, making less per hour. But yeah, I guess he's still working. I wonder if these
Yeah.
unionized
Well, I guess
positions,
he must be an entrepreneur or he works for a private company where he
yeah.
uh doesn't rely, like he goes out and gets his own job, so he charges a bit more, right? So it's interesting. But yeah, no, it's here we are with unemployment going up, and this was kind of another wow kind of moment for Canada.
Yeah, and
Um
it's crazy sad because back in the day, you used to be able to afford life on one income, right? We look at our parents.
yeah.
My mom was like I have two sisters, and my mom she worked part-time, but she was around 24/7, right? We did all the stuff as like a kid would want to do. And my dad worked full time. And that was like the traditional life. And now it's you have to work as, the mother or the wife if it's just like a normal salary paying job to afford the cost of living.
Sure.
Um,
And look at your parents, they had three kids and they have a
yeah.
they had a detached house and all these things, but
Yeah. And
that
my
has
mom didn't
totally
necessarily
switched.
need, yeah, right. And now both parents have to work. If you're just, on a salary job, it's sad because you look at, I was researching some of Canada's, higher paying jobs. So you think about things like, my neck was hurting. So I was looking into osteopath, seeing one. And I was like, I wonder how much those people make. Right. And then so I'm like Googling how much they make because there's a lot of school that goes into that. And then I'm
Tons.
looking at their incomes and I'm like, it's a great income. Don't get me wrong. It's a great profession. However, with the cost of living, if that's your sole income, um, and you have kids and you want to buy a house and you want to go on trips, like, and with tax, I mean, it's like it eats it up pretty quickly. And
Mm.
it's just crazy. The thing I sent you on Instagram about shrinkflation, that's a huge thing too, because your money, what you could buy, we say, okay, back however many years ago, a box of cereal was $3.99. Now it's $7.99. So we look at, okay, $4 more for the same product. But along with that, you get less in the new product, which is shrinkflation,
Yeah.
right? So $4.99 afforded you a box of cereal. This is just an example that was stuffed to the top, right? Now $7.99, okay, we say, oh, it's gone up $3, but it's also, 75% of what the content used to be. And that's just a tricky way to control like the
Sneaky.
idea of
Yeah, sneaky way
it's
of
sneaky. Like if
companies
you look at a
profiting
box of
more.
something, yeah, so they're
Yeah.
profiting more sneaky because you don't necessarily realize this like you would realize a $3 increase in a specific good.
Yeah, you
You
don't
just get
realize the
less.
decline. Yeah, yeah.
And
But
he
you
like
don't realize you're getting
he went
less.
through all these products. Like even his example was Toblerone. He's like, this is a Toblerone like 5 years ago, and it was like all the triangles. And he's like, this is a Toblerone now, and they're spaced out, weighted so you get
Away from
less
you get less
chocolate.
chocolate. Yeah.
But you wouldn't notice. I would never notice if I bought it that it used to be
No, you would
more.
never
So
notice.
that's
Yeah.
shrinkflation, and that's how companies control because they don't want to be seen as, oh, I have to raise my prices so much. They just give you a little bit less, so they're able to, um, I guess, curb the cost of their production a little bit without losing a ton of their buyers because it's so expensive now.
Yeah, that's interesting. You want to read the last one there?
Okay. Canadian universities see international students enrollment down 45% after rule change. The system is just hanging on. That's interesting. 45%, that's huge. Canadian universities are expected to see international student enrollment dropping by at least 45% from last year, a more drastic decline than 35% intended cut in study permit applications announced by the federal government earlier this year. Although the measures introduced by Ottawa were meant primarily to rein in the runaway growth of study permit holders in the college sector, Universities Canada said the early numbers from its members don't even come close to the targeted ceiling. With Ottawa's consultation underway to set its 2025 immigration levels, including targets for international students, the advocacy group representing 97 universities across Canada is pleading with the government not to impose further cuts to study permit quotas or make additional changes to the rules of the post-graduation work permits. The system is really just hanging on, Universities Canada President and CEO Gabriel Miller said in an interview Thursday. If it takes another blow in the next few weeks, it could be fatal. Universities have steadily grown international student numbers by an average of 10% year over year, reaching a total international enrollment of 255,000 in 2023 and accounting for about 1/4 of all study permit holders in the country. And back to what we say is study permit holders and the cost of tuition for overseas students is 3x what Canadian citizens would pay. So that's a huge income portion to these universities. So that declining at that percent, 45% is huge. And so I understand why they don't want it to happen, but I also see I see it, it's a double-edged sword, but
Yeah. Let me be clear. Good. Like absolutely good.
yeah.
If you are going to run a university based off, I'm not going to provide housing for these foreign students who are coming in. I'm going to charge them 3x the amount of tuition. Well, you know what happens when you don't get enough money and what companies have to do? They have to make cuts. So you have to make cuts within your university spending and you have to rein back your spending because you had it so good for so long.
Yeah.
And now there's less students coming in and you can't take advantage of the system as much as you could anymore. It's then you have to make change. You have to pivot. And you weren't providing housing. You were creating housing problems within small cities. And even landlords have been saying this, which is funny, that they're not getting as many students coming to rent their homes by room. There was an article out about Kingston, Ontario. Feel like landlords were saying, we're feeling the pinch here. But look, like you have to pivot when things change. And people thought, and a lot of Canadians, and we do live in a democracy, thought that there was too many people coming in and it was really propping up the housing in small towns. And now it's getting pulled back and now they're crying. Oh, now this is not working. We're not making as much
Right.
money. Give us
Yeah.
our international students back. Well,
Yeah.
no. So
Yeah.
anyways,
So
I
it's
think
interesting
that,
that,
yeah, I think it's a good thing. And I think that they should pivot and figure other ways to make money other than, charging 3x the amount for an international student to come in. So that's my two
it's
cents.
true. Yeah, no, I very much agree. I it's the whole university topic can get me going. Like it's just people have followed what everybody does for so long, but going to university and getting a Bachelor of Science and you're not specialized. There are so many people with a Bachelor of Science that just, if you're not specialized, it's just tough. Like you're almost like just on par with somebody that went to, somewhere right after high school and has the experience. Um, so I think that we're going to see a drop in the amount of people just going to university because it's the norm, because it costs $100,000 to put yourself through university, right? Just for a bachelor's degree. Before it was great. You have a Bachelor of Science and you're ahead of the game if compared to somebody that didn't go to high school. And still, yes, I'm not saying that education is a bad thing. It's a very good thing to be educated. But with the unemployment rate and just the cost of living and businesses wanting to, pay people, minimum wage versus what somebody educated would be asking for, it doesn't go as far.
Yeah,
So
the juice
I
isn't
don't
worth
know.
this. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, and a lot of
What do
these
you say about
programs.
your degree?
Oh, lightly used. I'm
For
selling it.
sale?
For sale, lightly used. Oh
No,
man, that's funny.
but you did a degree in economics, and that's propelled you into our market. So like there's a testament, and I'm kind of fighting for both sides here, is that it obviously helped you because you're able to pass that on to your clients and be way more of a quote unquote teacher in our business, which is what a lot of clients need with all of this uncertainty. Like you really need somebody that knows
Yeah.
what
The thing is that I think that you can do education in a more efficient way, is that you
like
can
the
literally,
Peterson Academy. I
yeah,
love
like you
that.
can do it. Yeah. Like once, if companies start recognizing, even Google has like certificates you can do online where you can go get a job. And I just took one by NVIDIA. It was an AI
Yeah,
certificate. And, it's just, you don't have to get yourself into 60, 70, $80,000 of
right.
debt when you could just go on your computer and you can learn so much, and you
You learn
can,
so much.
and yeah, like I
And
think the
yeah,
overhead would really come down a ton. So I think that the education industry is prime for disruption. The one thing though that I like is that in university there is collaboration. You're forced
yeah.
to meet, you're like on Frosh Week, you're forced to meet new people and
Oh yeah.
get out of your comfort zone. And I
It's not
know,
a bad thing. Like people
no, it's not
being
a bad thing.
behind the
It's just too
computer, learning by
expensive.
themselves.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's too expensive. Like that's the only thing, is that, you to get a loan to buy a home, like they literally go through every one of your things like a fine tooth comb, which I agree they should. But when you go to get a
Right.
loan for university, oh, yep, here you go.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, and you're young, right? You're 18, you don't know a ton about finances, and then you're kind of stuck with the student debt that you're trying to pay down after, and it's a lot. So, anyways, tons happening here.
I didn't
Unemployment
want to,
rate ticks
I just
up.
want to, for the record, say that I'm for education. That I'm
Yeah,
not saying don't go to university. I'm just saying like specialize doing these like side courses to learn, like even like how AI can integrate with different systems. And like if you're going to be into like this industry versus this, like there's just ways to become educated that you don't necessarily need to do a 4-year bachelor degree that's just unspecialized.
for sure.
Because there is a lot online. Like definitely get educated, but if the cost is 100 grand to put yourself through school for 4 years, it's putting you behind unless you're very specialized in a lane where because a lot of people in university, I don't know what I want to do,
For
right?
sure. Like
But it's
electricians who
good to
come out
get
of high
educated.
school,
Yeah,
they're getting
good to get
paid, they're
educated.
learning, and
Yeah,
they're saving money and they're doing things. So there's a lot of other options. But anyways, yeah, that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, tons happening. Let's see what happens with this Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau drama. I
yeah,
think that Pierre is just kind of sitting back, loving it, calling him sellout Singh and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
He's just
Because he
stoking the
seems like the
fire.
good one right now. Like Jasmeet and Justin are just kind of like
Yeah,
obviously
they're
there's a lot
fighting.
going on.
Yeah.
Right. And then Pierre's like, oh, like the one that's like,
Yeah,
the less drama you get into, the more you're seen as like,
for sure.
we should
Yeah.
try to.
So yeah, we'll continue to see what happens. We're just after Labor Day here, so we'll obviously keep you guys updated on the market. It was a slow summer, that's for sure. August had, and in the GTA, I think it had the least amount of sales in 24 years, or maybe it was Toronto specific. I can't remember. Trev put up the numbers, but sales are
Yeah.
down heavy. Realtors are leaving the business. Unemployment is ticking up. Rates are coming down. There's no doubt the economy is feeling some pain, and don't call us doomers. We're just telling you guys what's happening. If the economy was bustling along, we'd be telling you the same thing. So this is just the economic cycle that we're in, and yeah,
And it's a cycle. That's a good
yeah,
word. Like it is a cycle, right? And there's
this too shall
opportunity and
pass. Yeah,
right. There's ways to, based on your specific portfolio, there's ways to use what's going on and, navigate it. You just got to have the right people on your team.
yeah,
It doesn't mean, if you have a house and you're looking to sell and you're like, they told me that this. No, you just got to have the right team in place and we navigate it with you. And obviously we project forward and kind of give you advice based on what we're seeing now versus what we expect in January, et cetera. So reach out to us. I have a lot more to say where that came from.
yeah, 100%. So yeah, if you want to work with us and support us on a further level, you can click the first link down below in the description. We're getting calls booked again, which is great from podcast listeners. So yeah, we just go over your buy and your sell needs. And if you can like and subscribe, that also helps the channel, and leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast. We
Let's do
appreciate you
another
guys.
Q&A episode. There's been people that are asking me questions on
Oh
Instagram.
yeah.
Please DM us. Ask me questions because we'll bring it up and we'll call your name and be like, this person asked this. And
Yeah,
some of them
yeah,
are
we
good
can do one of
questions.
those.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, we
So
can do that. That's no problem. Yeah, we'll put on our Instagram story
yeah.
a little Q&A. So
Yeah,
awesome.
let's do that. Let's put a Q&A on our story.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, guys. Thanks for the support, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.